how do you actually put some sort of quantifiable measurement on organizational culture? And a tool that we use an awful lot is called the OCAI, or the Organizational Culture Assessment Instrument. It doesn't sound riveting, I'll grant you, but it's work by Cameron and Quinn that was developed in 1999 and has been shown to have a huge impact on how we go about measuring organizational culture. And it operates across 4 quadrants. So in the top right quadrant, we have organizations that are really innovative, really creative, developing things all the time. So these are organizations for whom the product or the service and the new products and the new services they can bring in, and the new developments that they can make, that is the most important thing for them. That's what really drives the organization. That's what they hang on to and hold on to as being really important. The top left quadrant is all about family. It's all about the family feel, the clan feel to it. It's about that sense of bond and belonging between the people. And it's that connection which is the most important thing for that organisation. Pixar are a great example of this. For them, the films that they produce, brilliant as they are sort of incidental. Actually, what's really important to them is that people come into work every day and love being in work and love working with their colleagues, because that drives the creativity that produces the films. The Royal Marines would sit up in this top left quadrant as well, because for them that sense of belonging, that ethos of being together, that is incredibly important. In the bottom left quadrant, it's all about process, structure, often called hierarchy. So this is where we have systems in place, policies in place, procedures in place that help to dictate and to drive what we do on a day-to-day basis. Very formulated, working very efficiently, working very effectively, provided those processes are right. So down in this quadrant, you'll start to get things like government institutions and the like. The bottom right-hand quadrant is all about competition, market, beating other people, winning. So down in this quadrant, you start to see organisations that, from things like the financial services or insurance, lots of automotive companies are in here. Organisations that really drive hard to own market share and to beat other people. And you often end up with teams within that organisation competing against one another. So if we think about those 4 quadrants then, and we start to look at the edges of the whole piece, towards the top of the model, it's all about flexibility, because this is where we have organisations that are either really creative and innovative and developmental, or they're very family, tribal, clan orientated. So it's all about flexibility in space, whereas to the bottom, because it's about process and control, or markets and competition, it's much more controlled and it's much more rigid. Towards the left-hand side of the model, it's much more of an internal focus, because actually this is either about tribal family connections or it's about processes and structures and policies. But over to the right-hand side of the model, it's much more externally focused, because it's about products, it's about services, it's about clients, it's about what the market wants. Now, the truth is that although I've kind of characterized each of those quadrants very specifically to certain organizations, every single organization has a small element in each of those quadrants. And this is where the measurement starts to come in. If you imagine now a diagonal line bisecting each of those quadrants, you can get a score, and you can place a score further or not so far into each of these quadrants, and you end up with a picture. And that's what makes it so useful, because now we start to have something really tangible about our organizational culture. We can start to see it. So I wonder, if you had one of these quadrants in front of you with these diagonal lines, where would you place the score for your organizations? Where would they sit on those lines And what would the shape look like for your organisation? And bear in mind that organisational culture is a societal thing. It's a interaction between people thing. So what becomes important is not just your view of your organisation and your view of its culture, but everybody else's. And this is how this tool works. This is how the OCAI works. You go out and you ask these questions of everybody in the organisation. They all respond and bring you back their results. And you can then build up an average.